Imagine a world 1.7 million years ago. A world where survival was a daily gamble between hunger and death. The sun burns fiercely over the African savanna, where small bands of early humans wander in search of food. They have no farming, no cooking pots, no knowledge of medicine, only sharp stones, scavenged meat, and instinct. For these fragile hominids, every discovery is dangerous. The wrong plant could burn their throats. The wrong animal could pierce them with venom. Yet curiosity pushes them forward, to taste, to try, to risk. And one day, in this unforgiving land, a small group would make a mistake that no one had ever made before. A shimmering snake in the grass. A carcass tainted with hidden toxins. A bite, a taste, a moment of weakness, and history changes. This is the story of the first time prehistoric humans were poisoned. A story of pain, survival, and the fragile line between life and death in a world we can barely imagine. The African plains, 1.7 million years ago, were not a land of plenty. They were a land of extremes. Endless heat by day, freezing winds at night, and predators lurking at every corner. Lions twice the size of today's saber-toothed cats, hyenas with bone-crushing jaws. And amid this brutal landscape lived a small band of early humans, Homo erectus. They were not the powerful hunters we often imagine. Instead, they survived on scraps, bones left behind by predators, berries plucked with uncertainty, roots dug from the earth with sharp sticks. Fire was not yet tamed. Medicine was not even an idea. Every mouthful was a gamble. Their lives revolved around one truth: eat or die. Hunger pushed them to experiment, to stretch beyond what was safe. The smallest band of survivors could vanish in a single bad season. It was in this fragile struggle that danger crept silently into their lives. A snake, coiled and unseen. A plant hiding toxins within its leaves. An animal carcass carrying invisible death. They did not know the word poison, but they were about to learn it, in the most painful way possible. It began with movement in the grass. The sun beat down, shimmering heat waves across the savanna. One of the hominids, gaunt from hunger, spotted what he thought was an opportunity. A fresh carcass lying still, half hidden in tall, golden grass. He approached cautiously, stone tool in hand. The group hung back, their eyes darting for predators. But the real danger was much smaller. Coiled beside the body was a black mamba, its dark scales almost invisible against the dust. The snake raised its head, hood flaring, eyes locked. The hominid froze. For a moment, time itself seemed suspended. Then, perhaps out of fear or instinct, he moved too close. The snake struck, lightning fast. Fangs pierced flesh, venom pumping deep. His scream tore across the savanna. The group scattered, watching helplessly as he stumbled back, clutching his leg. The snake retreated into the grass, its defense complete. The hominid had not only been bitten. The carcass itself, already tainted by the snake's venom or disease, held another unseen danger. And in the chaos, hunger would soon override fear. This encounter would mark the first poisoning of humankind. At first, it was just pain. A burning, searing pain spreading from the wound in his leg. The others gathered around, confused, their guttural calls echoing in concern. They had seen cuts, bruises, even broken bones. But this was different. His body began to betray him. Within minutes, swelling spread up his leg. His muscles convulsed, his breath came in short, ragged gasps. Sweat poured down his face, mixing with dust and tears. His eyes darted wildly, fear blazing where words could not describe. The group did not understand venom. They did not understand how invisible death could crawl through veins. They only saw their companion weakening, his body shaking violently, his strength collapsing. Some moved closer, touching his shoulder, unsure whether to help or keep their distance. Others stepped back, frightened by what they could not explain. In their world, sickness carried danger not just to the victim, but to all. The poisoned man collapsed into the dust. His cries faded to groans. The sun blazed overhead, indifferent. For the first time, humans learned that the savanna did not just kill with teeth and claws. It killed with venom that could not be seen. The carcass still lay before them. Hunger gnawed at the group, pulling their attention back again and again. The poisoned man writhed in pain, but the others were torn between fear of the unknown and the sharp ache in their bellies. One young hominid stepped forward, stone in hand, and tore into the animal's flesh. The smell of meat, rich, tempting, spread in the air. The others watched, tense but soon joined. Their sharp flakes carved through muscle, their hands stained with blood. But this meal was no salvation. The meat was tainted. Whether by venom, disease, or decay, it carried death within. Hours later, those who had eaten felt their stomachs cramp, their throats burn. Nausea racked their bodies. Some vomited violently, others collapsed in exhaustion. It was not just the snake's bite that poisoned them. It was the choice to eat when they should have feared. Hunger had overridden instinct, and the consequence was brutal. The group began to understand a truth we take for granted. Not all food is safe, a knowledge written into their bodies with pain. Night fell. The savanna cooled, but the suffering continued. The bitten hominid's breathing slowed, his body twitching in the dirt. Those who had eaten lay curled in pain, groaning softly. The survivors who had resisted hunger sat apart, watching the fireless night, fear etched into their eyes. They did not yet have words, but they had memory. The image of the snake striking, the sounds of their companions suffering, the taste of meat that burned instead of nourished. These impressions would stay. Through pain, knowledge was born. Slowly, across generations, groups would learn. Certain snakes must be avoided. Certain carcasses must not be touched. Certain plants burned the mouth or made the stomach turn. It was the beginning of what would one day become medicine, diet, and survival strategy. The first memory of poison, etched into the bodies and minds of those who endured. The next morning, the bitten man lay still, his body lifeless. Around him, the survivors looked on with silence. Their world had not explained what happened, but it had left a scar that would shape humankind forever. That single day, 1.7 million years ago, was not just tragedy. It was the beginning of knowledge. The first step toward understanding that danger could hide in unseen places. For early humans, every mistake was costly, yet every mistake was also a lesson. Poison taught them caution. It forced them to recognize patterns, which snakes carried death, which meats were safe, which plants to avoid. Over generations, these lessons became instincts. Instincts became traditions, and traditions became survival. The fear of poison shaped the way humans interacted with nature. It sharpened their senses. It made them wary of the unknown, cautious of bright colors in plants, of strange movements in animals. And later, when fire came, it gave them a weapon. Cooking could kill what poison might hide. But in this early moment, the lesson was carved in suffering. The price of survival was pain, and the victims of poison paid with their lives so that their kin might learn. Poison was not just a threat, it was a teacher. A brutal, merciless teacher that shaped the destiny of humankind. The first poisoning of humankind was not a single event, but a moment of awakening. It was the day our ancestors realized that survival was not only about strength or speed, it was about knowledge. The black mamba's strike, the tainted meat, the suffering of the weak, all became part of the memory carried forward. From that day on, humankind walked differently across the savanna. They feared more, but they also learned more. And with each painful mistake, they became wiser. Today, we take for granted what is safe to eat, what is dangerous to touch, what can kill us silently. But all of it began here, with those fragile, desperate lives under the blazing sun. The story of the first poison is not just about death. It is about the birth of human awareness and the high cost of survival.